What is up, everybody? Mr. Jim to my right, Mr. Ryan Muckenhern across from me. Guys, we've had this podcast on the books for a real long time.
It's true.
Jim, you bought a rifle for this podcast, which it didn't really take a whole lot of arm twisting.
No.
And man, just a lot of forethought to this one, and I love it when a plan comes together.
Speaking of that,
Don't you?
Jim,
Hold on, that's a quote. Do you know that that's a quote?
I got it. I picked up on it. Did you?
That's a quote from the A-Team.
I don't watch television.
Well,
Oh,
it's a classic television show. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you do. If you're out there in audio YouTube world and you haven't watched the A-Team,
All I can say is, I pity the fool.
Exactly. Watch the A-Team. That's some classic television. And a rifle commonly featured in that series, Ryan, the Mini-14.
One that actually looks almost identical, minus I don't think they had a suppressor, to one of the ones on the table here. We have two. And it's funny because we were like, hey, we like doing some of these gun podcasts. We've done a couple of them now. And, it may have been my idea, and I'd be happy to claim it if it was. But I was like, let's do the Mini-14, man. We got it. It's like this weird stepbrother of the firearms industry that you kind of have to love, but then yet at the same time you sort of try to, like a lot of people try to distance themselves from it, but they love it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always wanted to get a Mini-14. I did a very weak job of asking around to see if anybody had one, just so that I could have an excuse to buy one. Oh, nobody here has one. We gotta have one.
He's
for the
in
show.
the warehouse. It's 9:00 at night. Not a soul in there. Anybody got a Mini?
And
then like yesterday though, you're like, you go, like you said, you buy this firearm, get it set up, and then you're like, oh, Kevin has one too.
Yeah, Kevin has one. He's had
So
actually three. So I was like, we'll just get mine's all now pimped out, and I was like, we'll get Kevin's because his is more natural.
A little more classic of a look there.
Can I tell a question quick?
Please.
So, James purchased a rifle for the podcast to produce content on. I have also purchased rifles for the podcast to do content on.
Yeah. I've got one.
You do? When are we going to do a thing about it?
We're gonna do the Tika.
Oh, dang it. He's got me there. I
got a whole plan.
Golly.
And it's going to be really good.
I was really hoping we'd get Boardman to buy a gun. It's got to be something absurd.
I already did.
Does. A Tika's not absurd enough.
Yeah, we talked about Tikas ad nauseum.
Yeah, but now we're putting into practice what we've talked. It's going to be great.
Anyway,
Trust me.
Back to the Mini-14.
10 likes, Mark buys a gun.
Okay,
Yeah, all
cool.
it takes is 10. Back to the Mini-14.
Yep.
Ryan, can we get some of the old classic history on these things?
I believe the year was 1973.
I got to pronounce.
Oh, good. 1973.
Yep.
Thanks, Markipedia.
This is an adaptation kind of an M1 Garand that looks like an M14 that functions differently. This is a collaborative effort between Ruger Firearms and then a gentleman whose name escapes me at this point in time. Everybody thinks about Eugene Stoner as the father of the AR, which he is. But he had partnership.
Okay.
Other designers. A gentleman instrumental, Mark, is probably in your printouts.
James Sullivan.
I was thinking it
says designer L. James Sullivan and William B. Ruger.
Okay. So that guy's
We'll go
name,
with that for
I
now.
thought it was something completely different. Designed the Mini. They incorporated parts of the Garand. They incorporated parts of the M14, and they came out with the, quote, Mini-14.
Which, it's like a unique operating system, correct?
It's very different than both of those. The only thing it shares is stylistic cues to the M14 and
Absolutely.
some functionality of the bolt from the M1 Garand.
Can I just mention some of the stylistic cues of this rifle, which I think actually is what just made it made for television?
Please.
It is it's always been so radical looking, and like I said, I know, at least to me, I know it's got design cues from these like very classic rifles, like you said, like the Garand, but I don't know, man. Like it's just like, at least when I saw them coming out, or when I saw them on the market, they looked different than really any rifle that I was familiar with.
It's funny when
it was kind of like an AR before ARs were ARs.
Well, yeah.
Oh, the commercial AR predates this by like a decade.
But during the...
But I mean, like, by popularity-wise, though. Maybe I'm just way off.
I mean, they were rocking and rolling by that time. I'm not saying that they were, like, every gun shop was selling Colt SP1s, but they had been out for quite some time.
But then we had the assault weapons ban for a while.
That is correct.
And the Ruger Mini-14, I don't think, was included in that.
Correct. Well, depends. Did it have a barrel shroud?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, the shoulder thingy that goes up?
Yeah. Parts of that gun were a no-no. Magazines being one of them, potentially. Yeah. And then things like barrel shrouds and flash hiders. But we digress. It's a child of the 70s. 70s and 80s guns, weirdest guns.
Yeah.
Best guns.
So good. And, I mean, they still have it around today.
Yeah.
And they've added some different variants over time. In the 80s, late 80s, they added the 7.62x39, which we now affectionately know as the Mini-30. And we were just talking about that before we started, because I was like, why was that the next move? They've got a Mini-14 shooting the old 223, and then the next move, of all things to make it shoot, they're like 7.62x39.
Now, hold on a minute. It wasn't the next move. There was a gun. There was a gun in the interim that never made it to commercial light. It was called the Ruger XGI, which was a full-size version of this gun, kind of more of an M14, but like a Mini-14 converted to 308, larger scale.
Oh.
XGI never got off the ground. I've heard rumor that there are some floating around on the commercial space. I've never seen one, touched one, or found one.
No, it never got off the ground. Is that that was Ruger's problem, or that was that it didn't get very much success?
No,
or what?
so there was some mechanical failure or something that was preventing this gun from functioning normally. And so the XGI, it made it into a catalog. It never made it into production. And so that was a thing. It was 243 Winchester, 308, and I think that was it. Don't think they ever tried anything else in the XGI. And then, of course, we have the Mini-30 7.62x39. Jim and I were speculating as to why that was that commercial move. And I think it had to do with the influx of SKSs that were coming onto the market space, chomping up that style of rifle at a given price point, using that ammunition. And I think Ruger's like, we should make a gun that uses that ammunition.
That ammo was what, basically just extremely bountiful and extremely dirt cheap? Or
Yeah. Until not that long ago.
Right. Yeah.
I remember selling spam cans of 7.62x39. I don't even know how many rounds they had in them, but you had to use like a knife or a can opener to open them, or some had pull tabs on them. It was just a ton of rounds, and it was like $80 for like 500. I don't even know. It was
during that time period, and you're 100% right, Ryan. Yeah. It sounds like, via my research here, like we had this huge influx of Russian surplus ammo.
Yeah.
And so made a gun to go along with it. Like you said, cheap ammo, lots of it, easy to get.
Yes.
Off you go.
And then there's a couple other calibers that were produced. 6.8 SPC, so that's a pretty modern one.
Yeah.
300 AAC.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I still need to procure one of those.
Yes, you do. Maybe that's one that Mark buys. And triple deuce.
222 Remington.
So here's the cool part about the triple deuce.
He's good. It's all in here.
I sold 8 Ruger Minis in triple deuce. This was a cool thing. We bought out of, we affectionately called it the vault. It was like new old stock of Minis in triple deuce. They were produced for the European market. We got 8 of them through like some sort of handshake and high five deal that we had made with our Ruger rep back at the shop. We got 8 of them rascals. I regret every day not buying that gun.
That would be a cool gun to own.
If only because they made them for like a year, or not long. I mean, maybe it was longer than a year. I don't know how long. But there was very few of them put into production. And I regret not owning that gun.
Shocking that triple deuce I can see not taking off. Just because it seems a little odd
for a period.
For the platform.
Oh, yeah. Bizarre, right? But the issue here was military cartridge, i.e. 5.56 by 45 millimeter.
Yeah. In
countries that disallow that kind of thing. And so triple deuce fills that need, and it fills it brilliantly. And so the guns look exactly the same. caliber, 222 Remington. It's like awesome.
It's cute.
Yep.
That's awesome.
The one I'm surprised didn't take off was the 300 Blackout.
Yeah.
You can't get it anymore new. You got to find it. Like we found one, used, but they're pretty expensive.
Yes.
People know kind of what they have there.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, I guess they came out with it around the time the ARs were so prolific and
Yeah.
that people were chambering those and 300 Blackout and, and Mini-14s, we would be remiss to not bring up the fact that they have kind of this like forever gray cloud looming over their heads of being kind of crummy in the shooting department, especially accuracy.
From an accuracy standpoint, yeah.
You had about a 50% chance. It either hammered or it definitely did not hammer.
Yeah.
And
Maybe that's why nobody in a single episode of the A-Team ever got hit.
that could be. But I'll
To
tell
my
you,
recollection, there might have been a shoulder shot every now and then. You know what I mean? But a lot of those rounds hit the dirt.
Yeah, they did.
yeah, they were pretty juxtaposed relationship with the shooting community because they were renowned for being famously reliable, tactical, but man, they did not do well necessarily in the accuracy department.
From an evolutionary standpoint, though, like it sounds like over the years they've made some adjustments to correct that.
I don't remember the year that the Mini-14 target came out, but I think that was about the time that they had made the super meaningful change to
2007.
To the barrel.
Printouts coming in clutch today.
I'm glad he's here. I knew I was working retail at the time because the first Mini-14 target that I had come in was the gray laminate thumb hole stock version. They had a gigantic harmonic tuner on them. It was like the size of your suppressor, and it had like a myriad of set screws that you could loosen and move the thing on there, and like the whole rest of the barrel was threaded. And it was like this. We were a bit shocked that this was the proposed solution. Unbeknownst to me at the time, the proposed solution had already been enacted, and what it was is if you look at the barrels on, excuse me, if you look at the barrels on these now, they have a distinct shoulder, like the diameter changes right when it hooks up to, I don't know if we'll call this a trunnion or the gas system.
I've seen people say gas blocked.
Sure.
And I think it gets the point across.
Yeah, it's a unique tapered barrel, huh?
Yes. The early ones didn't have that. They were just a straight contour right through. And what I was told was the top part of that gas system would shift, shot over shot over shot over shot, and would put a different point of pressure on the barrel itself.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, we would have varying accuracy, just like a variable tuner would do the exact same thing, or a loose muzzle brake would do the same thing. That simple shoulder change there, now preventing that from sliding, and all of a sudden they become famously accurate.
Yeah.
And I had a local customer who was a mini fanatic, and he bought one of the target rifles. And full admission, at that point in time, I was like, oh my gosh, I am sending Dan down the road with something. And he brought back some groups with it that were just brilliant. I mean, like, contend with any target AR at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a mini. So the benefits of the mini were reaped. The accuracy of the AR was there. And then it became, I think, a super viable gun. I've never heard of somebody having one of the new ones that doesn't, and by new, I mean, this is now, almost 2 decades ago.
Right.
Not having one of the newer ones that isn't an absolute delight to shoot from an accuracy standpoint.
And the shooting standpoint in general. So I had never actually fired a Mini-14 before. Mm-hmm. And then I got this one. I sighted it in, so I've got the Samson Hannibal rail on top, which I attached a Venom red dot to. And so for those
the Hannibal rail.
that's literally what it's called.
Dude, I love it.
And I have the A-Team stock on here, which is also kind of that stainless color to match. This is a stainless tactical model, 16.1 inches with threaded barrel. So I shot this thing that I'd heard so many people say, very light felt recoil. I would agree entirely. And I was at 50 yards with a red dot. I actually think that this is a 3 MOA Venom. So it's 50 yards with a little red dot on it with a folding stock, which we'll get actually into a little bit more. But I was keeping them all inside the X-ring.
Yeah.
No problem. I had a couple rounds touching.
Shoots just like your 16-inch AR does.
It shoots exactly like my AR does.
I've never really handled one of these, that much before, or I guess if I did, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Kevin's there. Now, his is the ranch rifle. Yes. So he mentioned when I was chatting with him earlier today. So he had his son, as a youth, was a little bit recoil sensitive. Hopefully, I'm not, bearing, anything, something. But so he had him shoot his first deer with that, or he hunted with that early on. And when I picked that thing up, I'm like, man, this thing is light. It's handy. Yeah. It's an auto loader, but it's actually for its size, like it's kind of heavy though. And it's a 223. Where I'm going with that though is like, I bet it is just an absolute dream to shoot. And I made that comment downstairs. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing, I bet you could just.
I don't think it's quite as heavy as a 16-inch AR.
No.
I think it's actually a little lighter than that. It's a
pretty trim gun.
I guess I would compare it like
mentally.
I'm comparing it to like a synthetic stocked bolt gun of equal size.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Yes, and I think
I'm talking from like a recoil and hunting perspective with that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right there, Mark. I mean, there's a lot more mechanism on this than there is on a bolt gun. So. Stands to reason it's a little bit porkier than that, but
it's very balanced though. Like it sits good, like I don't know, I liked it.
They come up nice to your eye. That's the one thing that I was gonna get at was that like this is a gun where with iron sights on or with a low set red dot like I've got this Venom, the cheek weld like face eye position on it is absolutely perfect. And what I was saying as we get back to this folding stock here from the Samson thing, which I think Ruger might offer as a package deal, but you can get it. It's very easy to put on your gun. Even with this folding stock, it's actually so many times you get like these wire folders and stuff like on AKs, and you're just putting your chin on it, and it's super uncomfortable. This is actually, you can rest your cheek on it and like get into the gun, and your eye is still in the perfect spot, and it's extremely comfortable to shoot, even with basically resting your face on a pipe.
On a pipe.
I mean, that's like this is basically like it looks like conduit, but it's I just think this thing is awesome. Some of the things are goofy, obviously, and like I still prefer an AR because an AR like the magazine release and inserting a magazine, taking a magazine out on an AR is easier than on the Ruger Mini-14. The safety's a little goofy because you have to put your finger inside of the trigger guard in order to take the gun off safety. But, I think...
All right, let me see that.
So, it's just right here.
Ooh.
So that's off safe. That's on safe. So, I mean, if you're maybe teaching someone how to shoot with this, like that's an obvious, like, hey, let's take a little more time to concentrate on what we're doing here. But...
I didn't know that about that.
It's I really like this gun, and with the folder on it, I'm like, talk about truck gun. This, people say, or just a gun that you can just like bring with you easily anywhere. This thing is so nice. I love it, and it shoots so good. I took it on the range and I shot it fast, and it was like, I think I actually shot this thing fast better than I shoot an AR fast.
Did you shoot it at all with the stock folded in?
No, I didn't. To be honest.
Liar.
We should do that.
These magazines are unfortunate. So unfortunate.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Because they're not.
Jim's like, I got bad news, guys.
This is the bad news. This is the bad news. I think this is the crux of the Mini-14, and I still don't understand why no one's figured out a way to uncrux it.
What is wrong with that magazine?
It's not a standard magazine, Mark.
It looks like
it's not a standard AR magazine.
Okay.
It looks like a Stan Egg. It feels like a Stan Egg. It ain't a Stan Egg.
It ain't a Stan Egg. You can't just take your metal AR mags or your P mags, which I would extremely love, and just stick them in the gun and let it work.
Gotcha.
These have to be specific. And I've heard all kinds of things, like some of the aftermarket ones aren't as good as the Ruger ones, whatever. But I have all these Ruger 20-round ones. I think there's some bigger ones, but it's like, I would love to be able to use my P mags so much.
That makes a lot of sense.
That just kind of
sucks. A lot of sense.
That kind of sucks.
I thought you were going to say I'm like, what's wrong with the metal mag? Like,
no, I mean the magazines, they function fine. I haven't had any issues with
They're
it.
unique to the gun.
yeah.
That
makes sense.
Proprietary mags, dude. We've talked about it. Proprietary mags kind of sucks when you got to deal with that.
And then at the same time,
and really they're so close.
It's so close. You're right. They'd have to mess with this block somehow and bring like the push button stuff. I don't know what they would have to do exactly because I'm not a gun engineer, but it's like it's so close. Like you said, Mark.
At least it appears to be.
Appears to be. Taking these things down is, you need one tool, but it's super easy. I wish we had that tool on us, like we just had a screwdriver. But you just friggin' click this trigger guard down, and then the whole top just comes right out.
No kidding, huh?
Yeah. And then you can just pull that trigger unit straight out of the bottom.
Very serviceable gun.
Extremely serviceable.
Speaking of service, the Mini was one of the commonly issued guns to the Bureau of Prisons.
Yep.
And I always kind of got a kick, even here. So very recently, we had some BOP affiliates come in, and they were issued Minis in their career. And so we've been in this building since 2018. And they're like, yeah, no, I got a Mini. That's their issued gun, which I think is neat. And there's not a darn thing wrong with it either. I think some maybe lower budget police departments, like small departments, have utilized these things. I'm unaware of any official military service.
Yeah.
I'm checking on that right now, Ryan.
Well, and
There was a full auto made, AC556.
yeah.
It does not look dissimilar to your system.
Yeah, they use this stock setup on
Yep.
that gun,
Yep.
interestingly enough.
And they had a selector switch on them, which is pretty neat.
I was talking to somebody about this stock, and they made the funny comment. They were like, "Yep, they call this the paratrooper. You're in a plane and out of the plane in just a couple of minutes, and then you got to last a couple of weeks with the stock the rest of the time." So they were like, "Is it really worth it for that little bit of time that you were in the plane and jumping in the sky?" But I still think this stock is actually, I wouldn't do it any different. I wouldn't actually prefer necessarily this over this. It's so comfortable.
Which kind of fits.
It does.
I'm as we're talking about this, I'm trying to go through the efforts of convincing myself that for some reason I need a Mini of some variety.
Right.
I'm having
You
a hard
do.
time with it.
You do.
You talk about the crux being the magazine. I also think there's a second crux, and that
Tell
is
me.
the Ruger proprietary mounting solution, which has been rectified because you can now get a factory Picatinny rail that goes in place of that.
Mine came in the box. With
Yeah.
it.
And so that's cool. I think it's something that modernizing a bit would be a good play. My opinion.
Once you put that on there, though, then you do end up the cheek weld is not the same as it was.
Right.
Like
So-
it really serves best with a low mounted red dot.
Yep.
Or the iron sights.
Yep.
But they're so cool. I love racking the charging handle on this thing. We talked about it feels like an 80s credit card processor, just so mechanical. It feels so good.
It's got a nice.
I was
little ring.
watching some movie the other day where they had an 80s credit card processor, and dude, it just brought me back. I liked it.
Oh yeah.
Ryan, earlier you mentioned conflicts.
Mhm.
Oftentimes we call you Muckapedia. I'm Markapedia today.
You absolutely
Only
are.
because I actually have notes. Today's notes brought to you by Wikipedia, by the way. So I can't.
We all know
I
one of
can't.
the
I can't take credit. So
Foremost sources of information.
if any of this information is wrong, blame them.
This open source editable. If any of it's right.
The Rhodesian Bush War.
Oh, the Rhodesians.
The Troubles, which I don't know what that one is.
Wow.
Honestly, I'll have to look that one up a little bit further.
Now you sound like you're naming
It says militias / commando,
video game
and
conflicts.
now I might say this wrong. The Vermelo conflict.
Is this a situation in which that arm was procured on contract, or is this like we've got a bunch of mishmash?
Don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. That,
What I guess what I was saying is I'm unaware of.
I wasn't saying that you were wrong. I was,
No, I'm
it sounded
unaware
like
of.
I
that's
wasn't
what you were going
attacking.
for.
I'm unaware of like this is an issued firearm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can say the 1022, another Ruger product, classic, is an issued firearm.
Okay, because we've talked about this before,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't recall what it was issued for or who or when.
Number of groups, suppressed, small format.
I like how some group performing clandestine operations was like, we have access to every firearm that anyone can imagine, but none of these will do. You know what would do? And then the Ruger 1022.
A fast twist, short-barreled 1022.
You know what I used to use for squirrels that I think would really fit the bill for what we're doing right now?
Hey, that and the Ruger Mark II pistol.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Check out the AWC Amphibian if you want a little bit of history.
Ruger is as a brand, very cool brand. They've come out with a lot of very neat guns. A lot of guns that really, like I feel like so often you hear Winchester, Remington, you know, and then a lot of the classic American stuff that like from lever actions and stuff like that, like Henry and Marlin and Ruger. It's not that they don't get brought up, but I don't know if they get enough credit for also being one of those manufacturers that shaped so much about the American firearms scene.
Oh yeah,
and they still do it today. Like, and we've talked about the Ruger American, which then bred the Ruger Precision Rifle, which has changed the precision rifle scene entirely. And they always seem to bring, like, if customers are like, if only we had something like this people offer, but with these features from something else. And Ruger is almost always the ones to bridge the gap.
So it's awesome that you say that, because in a world and a time when the AR was a naughty tool, socially, Ruger's the answer.
Heck yeah.
You like ARs? You like 223? You like varminting, recreating, home defense, hunting? Here's a thing with a wood stock that looks like your traditional hunting rifle that gives you all the same things you like about the AR.
Yeah.
Love it. There are companies now that are doing that.
Are trying to make ARs like wood.
Yeah, correct. And it's like, check out this novel idea. Check out 1973. 1973.
You know, there is one other thing that I always think about when I think about the Ruger Mini-14. Chipotle.
Jim, I'm having a hard time with that one, my friend.
Do you remember when the world found out that, at least at a time, Chipotle was very pro open carry?
I don't. Now,
I can't remember, to be honest with you. Like, the details of the whole backstory are a bit fuzzy still. I can't remember if it was that Chipotle was very pro open carry, or it was actually that they just didn't have any policies in place that would prevent someone from open carrying in one of their stores.
Yep.
And so there was a movement of people going into Chipotle and buying burritos whilst open carrying whatever. And what came from that was a picture on the internet of two gentlemen wielding their Chipotle burritos, maybe some chips and salsa, and one of them had an AR and the other had an extraordinarily plastically decked out Mini-14.
That fits.
And that's just it. And so that's kind of another one of the like slight cruxes of the Mini-14 is that if you
every time you think of it, you get hungry.
Well, I am hungry right now, come to think of it. But sometimes
I know what you're getting at, Jimmy.
The vibe or how people may perceive you as a person if you have a Mini-14 is like they might see you on a picture on the internet with you wearing like a bandana over your face with a Chipotle burrito in the store with a Mini-14 slung over your shoulder.
That fits.
I think that was just. I mean, but I think that was just. I mean, that was just kind of like a blip of a time period. So I did a Google search here, Jim. I Googled Chipotle open carry.
Oh yeah, did you find the picture?
So not that, but the first thing that came up.
If you push the images button, it'll show you things.
But it says Chipotle Mexican Grill will no longer allow firearms in its restaurants after gun rights activists posed with military-style assault rifle. I hate the word assault rifles, by the way. At one of its Texas outlets.
Yeah, that was 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
Chipotle bands. I bet if we go to Google Images, we'll see my friends. There they are. Yeah, look at them. Look at this guy. There's the AR, and look at his buddy next to him, and he's wearing like a tie-dye. It's either a tie-dye shirt or like a skillet T-shirt.
Skillet.
And
Skill. I don't even know what that is.
What are they called again?
Affliction.
Yeah, whatever. Look at this Mini-14.
Well, no wonder I
He
didn't know what it
does
is.
have-
It's
look-
not a.
Yeah, it's just amazing. That's a Mini-30.
You know, they
actually.
thought they were. Maybe they thought they were doing the. I don't know. That's
It's a thing.
Look at them though; they're having a good time getting burritos.
I've eaten Chipotle one time, and that was with you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Well, unfortunately, we can't bring our minis in there anymore.
This.
At least
Did we just
according
find?
to them.
Did we just find the thumbnail for the podcast?
Maybe so.
Jake's
Mark,
over there. He's not listening
Mark,
to us
did
anymore.
we miss anything about the Mini?
You know,
It's
so I was
suppressive.
going to add some things,
Oh, please.
but then you guys, you really covered a lot of the good stuff here.
It's
You know,
suppresses well.
there's one variant that we didn't really talk about that's not really a Mini, but kind of is. And Ruger made also the Deerfield carbine in 44 Magnum that looks like a Mini, talks like a Mini, walks like a Mini, but it's chambered in 44 Magnum.
But now, how was that different? Like, would you have noticed something physically different about it? Like the magazines, were they different looking?
I don't
I'm
have my
guessing?
Google machine on me,
Yeah.
so you'd have to look up a picture of it.
and this
you'll
was
see,
the what, Ryan?
the Deerfield carbine. It's probably not listed on your literature because it's a completely different gun. But the stylistic cues of the Mini only chambered in 44 Magnum.
Oh,
Any chance you could pull that one up?
I
Dex?
think I could
It's
do
very
that. So I
interesting.
was hold on. Let me give me 1 second here.
While Mark looks, I will say, like I said, it suppresses well. I
Yeah.
put a suppressor on it.
No overgas, right?
No overgas, and I didn't have to tune anything.
Just ran.
It just runs.
Yep.
And I have to imagine, like, when you have a system like this, it like beefy operating system, like you add a little bit more gas in there, pressure from the suppressor, and it just seems to just eat it up.
Sure.
Like it's not. You know, sometimes with ARs, they can be finicky about being tuned properly when you start messing with cans and, you know, gas systems and stuff like that. But this thing, no perceivable difference. Like, it just didn't care.
Sure.
And
A
it
lot.
absolutely flings brass a country mile.
Yeah, they do.
You could honestly,
something
if the
satisfying about
A-team,
that.
if they were in the A-team and, like, they were getting flanked from their right side and they were shooting at the guys in front of them, they could also be, like, harming the people to their immediate right.
It's a good defense mechanism from attacks from the top and to the right.
It is.
It is. So I know. We were mentioning the cartridges.
Yeah.
Before, Ryan, and so the one maybe you did mention it. So
puts
I'm
his
just gonna
phone
get there.
That's fine.
Mark has
The
turned into
223 Remington. I don't think we mentioned. Maybe we did mention, but so 222, like you said, 223, 300 AAC. You mentioned that 5.56 by 45, the 7.62 by 39, and the 6.8 SPC. So I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned the 223 in there. Okay, the Deerfield carbine.
Are there ones that are just chambered in 223 and not 5.56?
Probably.
Maybe
Yes.
some of the older ones?
Yes. I distinctly remember in Ruger Textilization .223 Rem.
Mark has just been over here.
Oh.
He basically is.
Just trying to provide good information. So the Deerfield carbine, first thing that comes up here, or Model 99/44, is a 44 Magnum semi-automatic rifle produced by Sturm Ruger and Company. It uses a rotating bolt short-stroke gas piston. It was introduced in 2000 and discontinued in 2006. Short-lived little lifespan there.
If you hit the images button,
So
you can
that's
see more.
yeah. See, Mark, there is.
It
this
came up
button-
with an
There
image.
is a button up here.
There
that
was
gives
an
you
image.
more
There's a couple
images.
different
That's what
kinds
I'm
there.
curious
There's
about.
some right there.
Oh, maybe
That's-
there's
What I
all
want to
three
know,
of them
there.
right
Oh,
there.
look, there's the magazine. That's what I was most curious
Yeah.
about. It looks like a 1022 magazine
Yeah.
with the big like
not
kinda like-
dissimilar.
bulgy thing at the top.
There's a couple different versions of the Ruger semi-automatic 44.
Well, here,
there was one
this
that
one
was
might have all. There's three here.
There they are.
Look at those.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Mark.
So there they are. There's the one right in the middle is the one I'm referring to
And why? What?
because you can see the stylistic cues
Oh,
Yep.
sure.
that resemble that of the Mini. So they've got the shroud over the op rod. They've got a little heat shield going on. They've got that same rotating bolt, similar rotating bolt. Very cool guns.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan.
yeah.
But I feel like some of the original Mini-14s, the shroud was made of wood. That's what it said, I think.
Not seen that.
His teeth were made of wool.
Holy crap. Oh, no, I have seen that. You're absolutely right, Mark. Now
Let
that
me
you've
just,
jogged
because
my
I was
memory.
reading something earlier. Oh.
It's okay.
It's okay, Mark.
Thank you for looking up the Deerfield carbine. We should give it a notable mention because it was a really cool gun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Mark.
Just banging away with them 44s.
Hey, I've got a buddy of mine that's got the tube-fed version,
Okay.
and that just looks like a giant 1022.
Yeah.
Amazing gun. Blaster, if you're listening, and I know you are, he got it for like $300. I've never been so mad.
That's
pretty good.
Okay.
Oh, man, that thing's a hammer, too. Should sell me that gun. Call me.
Call me.
These dude, I love the Mini-14. I'm a big fan.
I'm glad you got it.
I'm a big fan now, and it's like the thing is that we're so far into it's 2023 / whenever you're listening to this, like we are so far into ARs and how nice they are and how you can build them and do all this stuff that like the Mini-14 will like there's nothing that you can really do to it to make it better than those, you know. But
I think it's
I
a
appreciate
fine
how good it is, despite the fact that it's not an AR, like the ubiquitous AR, and using, like it doesn't use any of the same parts of the AR. Whenever anybody comes out with a new gun now, it's always like, whoa, it takes AR butt stocks and it takes buffer tubes and grips and magazines and lower receiver, and you finally in the end you're like, well, you just made another AR. But
Jim, you were just complaining that
uniquely
this doesn't
different.
accept AR mags.
That's
That's
the
one-
only
that's one
thing.
thing.
That's the only thing. Magazines, which magazines aren't like accessories. Magazines are a functioning part of the gun. I would love it if it took that, but otherwise, it's just so uniquely not an AR. Correct.
but without giving up any functionality.
Yes.
There are many guns that try to fill that space. Despite the history, jaded or otherwise, nothing has come close to doing it as well as this gun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
They're cool.
Yeah.
it's like the American SKS.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, like, when I look at these, it's like, it's kind of like an AK. It's kind of like an AR. It's kind of like a, like a classic Garand. It's kind of like a typical hunting rifle, when you look at the ranch rifle.
Well, I feel like the AK to the SKS is the AR to the Mini-14. You know what I mean? Like, they both have their respective...
Yeah.
Like, if somebody in Russia or China or whatever as many of the Comblock countries was like, I really, really want this AK, but I would like it to look more traditional. SKS.
Yeah.
There you have it.
There you have it. They're cool. I'm glad you.
I'm so glad I have this.
I'm glad you got it, Jim. I'm sorry it took so much to talk you into getting that for this
I
podcast.
know. It was so worth it.
Ryan and I just really had to just chip away at you.
Yeah, I know.
At me? Oh, no, we had to chip away at Jimmy. Sorry, I was
Did he just get aggressive?
falling in love with this thing again. Golly. I don't need this, James.
I think I added everything to cart at the same time. I bought it all, and then within the same day that I got it at my dining room table, I had it all assembled in full A-team spec.
It's lovely.
Well,
All right.
that's that.
Hot dog.
That's that. Thanks, Jim.
Anybody else
Thanks,
out there got a
Ryan.
sweet Mini? Love to hear about it. Take your Mini to get any burritos lately?
We should go get burritos.
We should. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.